What subject did you like in school and how did they help you?
I like maths, I suppose, and it was history and geography.
What good have you done to encourage or support you and others into entrepreneurship more?
Schools in my day were nowhere near as tuned in as they are in your day. You were fortunate to be in a much more progressive educational system and to have the opportunity to engage in conversations like this with people.
What are the plans for the Rigby Group in the future, and do you believe you'll set up any more businesses?
I personally believe very strongly in the private business ethic.
Hello and welcome to another Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast. My name is Richard Layton, the entrepreneur in residence within the Brett Centre for Entrepreneurship that's part of the University of Liverpool Management School. We're here this morning in the UTC, the studio in the Baltic Triangle with our Year 10 GCSE Business Studies class. Thanks as always to Mr. Carey, the sector skills champion within the school, for not only support of the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast, but also the Enterprise Education in Secondary Schools programme. Thanks also to Jay, University of Liverpool graduate, for directing and producing the podcast. We have our entrepreneur here, Sir Peter Rigby, the founder and chairman of the Rigby Group. Thank you ever so much for coming in today to speak with the pupils. Our two pupils that are going to be interviewing our entrepreneur are Shimon and Ollie, and I'll now hand it over to you both to ask the questions.
What does the Rigby Group do, and how long have you run the business?
So I started the Rigby Group 50 years ago. It is essentially an information technology group. It is the largest privately owned information technology group in Europe, employs 10,000 people in 9 countries. And it is part of a broader group of companies I own, which operate airports, run hotels, have leasing businesses, related businesses, which I've built over the years.
Why did you decide to start Rigby Group as opposed to a different business?
When I was your age, I was in Liverpool. I was born not far from here, in point of fact. And my father lost his eyesight when I was 17, and I wanted to go in the Air Force. And I decided I had to get a job, and I was very fortunate, a long time ago, being pointed to a computer company. And purely by chance, I then spent my entire career in information technology. So I learned the basics, and if you want to be an entrepreneur, then you've got to specialize in something aside from your personal skills. So in my case, I worked my way through IT. I was a programmer, I was a systems designer. I ended up selling computers. And this is in the age of mainframe computers as opposed to laptops. And then having accumulated that knowledge, and always having wanted to do my own thing, I then decided I would do my own thing. Problem was, I hadn't got any money. So what I did, I had £2,000, and I had 2 kids and a mortgage, late 20s, and I decided that what I had to sell was the knowledge I'd accumulated. So I became a consultant to IT. And then from there, I built up a business which never borrowed money until it was 20 years old. It was all self-generated. And then, as you will find in this journey of entrepreneurism, turning an idea into reality and then scaling it is the big challenge. And that happened in the later years of my career, when it became a big international business, and it's now in the top 10 largest privately owned businesses of any type in the UK, and in the top 250 in the world.
What were you like in secondary school, and were you an entrepreneurial as a student?
I went to a grammar school here in Liverpool. School was a bit of a drag for me, if I'm honest. I liked the sports bit, I liked other aspects. I wanted to go in the Air Force. That was my driving thing. And it was just getting through school and getting to learn to fly. That was my ambition, which changed when my dad lost his eyesight and I decided in my infinite wisdom to go and get a job. That's the story I've just told you.
What subject did you like in school and how did they help you?
I like maths, I suppose, and it was history and geography.
What could have you done to encourage or support you and others into entrepreneurship more?
Schools in my day were nowhere near as tuned in as they are in your day. You were fortunate to be in a much more progressive educational system and to have the opportunity to engage in conversations like this with people like Richard who can help you to look at that. But I don't think people identified entrepreneurialism to the degree they do today. And social media does that. And there is this attraction which some people have that entrepreneurialism is all about making as much money as you can in the shortest possible time. That works for some people, but you need to have a lot more intent than just simply that. That might be an end product for somebody if they develop an app or something and suddenly it goes global. But most things in life that you succeed at demand hard work, dedication, effort, accumulating knowledge, being in the right place at the right time. All those factors come into play. And it's all part of this journey.
Did you go to sixth form at university after your GCSEs and how did that help you develop your skills in entrepreneurship?
No, I didn't go to university. For the reasons I've explained, I opted out. I don't know whether it affected my life. I was fortunate in that I moved into a technological job and was able to cope with that. The ironic thing is, I'm now honorary president of Liverpool University for Enterprise. So even though I didn't go to university, I've been honoured with that and a lot of other degrees as well.
What did you do before starting the Rigby Group? Did you work for anyone else or run any other businesses, and what did you learn?
Yes, I did. As I've explained, I was fortunate enough to go and work in a computer company called NCR. I then went for another one called Honeywell. And they were American companies. They were good at what they did. You learn from others. And you also learn from identifying role models. It's an excellent way if you're fortunate enough to work with somebody who you admire for whatever reason. It might be their technical skills, it might be the way they handle people, it could be whatever. Those sort of things are the way you learn.
What's the best advice you could give to a student trying to start a business in school?
It's this word entrepreneur, isn't it? It's possible that you could start a business in school. I don't doubt that. It's less likely that you will start a business in school. It's more likely that you will need to accumulate a better understanding of what it is that you want to be an entrepreneur in. And that means applying yourself to study and to absorb the knowledge behind the idea. So the natural step for you guys from here, in my book today, will be to go to university. And when you select your university course, rather than just taking whatever comes along, I would say take something that's related to where you think you might go. You might see medicine as a route. You might see computing could be another route, I suppose. So there's lots of things. But all the time you're improving and refining your understanding of the subject that intrigues you. which may be able to be turned into an idea. Entrepreneurs are people who are never still, who are never satisfied, who are constantly thinking about, what do I do next? And you're more likely to succeed if you've accumulated some knowledge behind the ideas.
What are the plans for the Rigby Group in the future, and do you believe you'll set up any more businesses?
Well, I'm of a certain age, and I've got my sons in the business and I've got my grandsons in the business. And I personally believe very strongly in the private business ethic. A lot of people who are entrepreneurs, their primary concern is to get a public listing of the business on the stock exchange, and then by doing that they cash in a lot of their shares, maybe 100% of their shares. Creating a family business and you put into a business, it isn't just about the money, it isn't just about the capability, it's about the way you do your business. And it's about people, how you treat your people. Do you give them opportunities in the business? Are they properly paid? How are they perceived in the community? So a family business, in my book, is a very special thing. There are 3 times as many public businesses as there are private businesses. Private businesses have those standards I've mentioned. Public businesses are run by shareholders. Shareholders want a return on investment. And if today we're making this product and the market is lost or reduces, they'll close it down and move to another one. That may involve people losing jobs or being transferred. Private companies tend to behave better and differently. And that's just an opinion, but that's what I think.
If you were a secondary school student again, what would you do as like a business or an entrepreneurship?
Well, I would say to anybody today that having computing skills is essential, and it's becoming more essential. And of course, the understanding you have today has changed. It's got to incorporate AI. It's going to affect all our lives, there's no question about it. I think if you haven't got keyboard skills, if you haven't got access to technology, if you can't go on the internet, you're seriously disadvantaged. And a lot of kids today are in that situation. You're not. I'm sure a lot of your material schools delivered electronically. And it's not a bad industry to go into. People today, in my view, going into business are more risk averse than people like my generation were. Today, a lot of people going into business are more concerned about the financial backing they've got than necessarily taking the risk personally to achieve the result. In many ways, it's easier to go in business today than it was 50 years ago, 20 years ago, because capital, risk capital, is more readily available. So if you've got a decent idea and you are intent on doing this, then if you socialise that idea, in the case of Liverpool here with the Entrepreneur School, and it's a really good idea, then maybe you'll find some kind of financial backing to help you do it. Unfortunately, you probably need some money, whatever your idea is, to promote it.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much to Shimon and Ollie for asking the questions. I really like what you were saying about university. So looking back at myself, I was quite entrepreneurial before university, but I actually took that as an opportunity to develop better skills, experience and expertise. And then outside of my studies, in my spare time, I designed, developed and created projects with organisations like Big Issue, Oxfam, Salvation Army, Homeless World Cup and Age UK. And I did that first and foremost just to get work experience so that when I graduated I could gain employment in industry, because it's quite competitive as a young graduate. But what actually happened in the end was someone came across me and offered me a role as a social Entrepreneur in Residence. So I'm a real advocate for people to go to university to get skills, experience, expertise, learn around a specific area, and then if you're entrepreneurial as well, even if it's in terms of trying to find employment in the future, opportunities will arise and turn up, and yeah, being entrepreneurial in life I think is definitely a brilliant approach to take.
It is. What I would add to that, Richard, is that wherever life takes you, and you might be an entrepreneur, you might end up in a top job somewhere, it takes hard work, a lot of determination, a lot of effort, going down the wrong road sometimes before you find the right road, and nothing comes easy. You always hear these stories of some kid in the back room at 16 years of age who invents a fantastic app and suddenly overnight is famous. That is very much the exception, not the rule. And that's not the way most people go about it. So having a, if you like, in a sense, almost conventional grounding, first of all, is so, so important. What you're doing now is the right thing. And the next right thing, I would say, is by all means think of your ideas, think of what you're going to do, but direct your efforts to getting more knowledge and getting more seated in life before you go off at a tangent to do your own thing.
You are right there. There are young people that go to university, like Mark Zuckerberg, for example, and people look at them and create Facebook, and 12, 24 months later, he's a billionaire. But actually, if you look at his backstory, you were talking about being a programmer. He was in his bedroom at 11 or 12 years old, creating programs, applications, and people just see a young person that just suddenly explodes and makes a lot of money. But if you look back at his story, he'd already done his 10,000 hours. He'd already been failing for a decade before he finally came up with something that got a lot of traction and suddenly, exploded, and he took that opportunity to grow and develop and take things further. So we'll now go into the audience to get a few more questions for you. So who's got a question for Sir Peter?
My question to you is, what was the first risk or chain reaction that started everything for you, with you becoming a business or creating an idea?
The first thing that really made me energise myself was when my father lost his eyesight. He lost his job, and they had nothing. And I said to myself, I've got to do something about this. And whatever I did, I would have worked damned hard to make it succeed. I was lucky, in that, as I explained, I ended up in an embryonic industry called information technology. You need breaks in life. You don't organise those things, they happen. And that was, it was a break, but it was a break to me mentally to make me want to do something and work at it. And as I've said, the underlying thing in all of this is hard work, whatever you choose to do.
What was your biggest loss and how did you overcome it?
Businesses have to make profits. You don't succeed at everything. And one of the things in business as an entrepreneur you have to do is that you have to be able to take risks. If you're going to go from A to B and you're in a hurry because competition is chasing you or the need is there at that moment in time, then you're probably going to have to take a risk. And that risk might be financial, it might be allocating resources that could be doing something else, or whatever. And if it doesn't work out, then it's a loss and you've miscalculated. I guess the thing is that you need to get more things right than you get wrong. But you will get things wrong, and that could translate into a financial loss or a lost market opportunity.
And do you want your work to be remembered?
Yes, I do. I've created many thousands of jobs, and the one thing that I am probably most proud of is that I created 30 odd years ago my foundation, and today I've got my charitable trust. And what I do believe, and here's a message for you, is if you are successful in your lives, in your businesses, as entrepreneurs, just forget, or just don't forget, I should say, that you've been fortunate and that not everybody else has. So then, putting back into society, giving your time perhaps, or if you're wealthy as a result of that, giving money back to help those people in life who haven't been that successful is very important. So in my situation, for example, our foundation has committed all its resources today to helping schools, particularly schools in the Midlands, which is where the headquarters is, where the school has problems. It might be absenteeism, it might be a lousy record in mathematics, it could be anything. So we fund specialists to do that. We've just funded a food hub in Birmingham, where 1 in 2 kids doesn't get a square meal during a day. There's lots of things you can do. And in society or whatever. So in my case, at my stage of life, I'm spending half my time not running the businesses that I've talked about, but basically running the charities that have been created as a result of that business success.
When there was like a tough decision, or even in the hospital, something to career answer or choice, what would you do?
Well, you go through a logical thinking process, don't you? I mean, one thing, we haven't mentioned in any business is you need a plan, basically. And it helps if you know where you want to go, and then you can logically analyse, where you're at. Fact is, not all decisions are right. It tends to be a very good quality to listen to other people's views on things. And when you arrive at a decision, it isn't just something you pull out from the back of your mind. It's been considered, you've listened to other people, you've taken their input on board. But if you are in business as an entrepreneur, you have to be prepared to make decisions. It's no good being willy-nilly about things. At the end of the day, a decision is called for, you make it, and you have to live with it.
That was awesome. Thanks ever so much for your questions. So we have a couple of closing traditions on the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast, and our first closing tradition is to Simon Squibb you and ask you, what's your dream?
What's my dream? Gosh. I think I've realised my dream in the sense that I've created something that's long-lasting, standing, it's highly relevant today in today's market in IT, and it's a success, it's a British success story, and it is well perceived, and we've also carried this tradition as a family of putting back into the community. I guess that's my dream.
That's brilliant. And I think a lot of young entrepreneurs out there, quite often people do look at entrepreneurship as purely just wishing to generate income for you and your family and your loved ones. But actually, a lot of entrepreneurs want to do more if they're really successful and give back to the community, which is something that you've done tremendously. And again, since the start. And thank you ever so much for your support of the Enterprise Education in Secondary Schools programme and what you've done there through Charitable Foundation, and also the Sir Peter Rigby Centre for Enterprise that we have at the University of Liverpool that helps all of our students and graduates as well. So it's phenomenal what you've been able to do to help and support us, not only helping young people in secondary schools, but university students and graduates in Liverpool as well. So from my perspective, and what you just said about that you believe that you've realised your dream, it certainly looks like that, and you've it's been a lot of hard work as you talked to about today, But yeah, it's brilliant to see what you're doing, giving back and leaving a legacy to help and support
Thank you.
others. Our final closing tradition on the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast is to Stephen Bartlett. So we have a couple of sets of conversation cards. So I'll pass the conversation cards over to Ollie and Shimon, and then if you would just like to select one card at random and then ask Sir Peter the final question.
Is it ever appropriate to hurt someone's feelings?
Is it ever appropriate?
Yeah.
I think in business, it is, to be honest with you. If you're faced with having to say to somebody, you're not up to a job, it's time to move on, you know, a normal human being is going to say, well, you know, this is going to bring you a problem, you're going to lose your income, da-da-da-da-da. So there's nothing wrong. You do not have to be ruthless to be in business. You can be a human being, but you have to be a decisive human being.
What is the one belief or behaviour that has positively impacted your life in the past 12 months?
Well, I think one thing that's impacting all our lives is artificial intelligence. And doing what I do and the business I have, one is expected to have a view on artificial intelligence as to its good aspects and as to its bad aspects. And we all know about it. You're probably all using ChatGPT, I imagine, whether your dissertations and things are done in that these days, I don't know. I suspect they might be. This is a transformational thing, AI. And it certainly made people like me, who are involved in technology, have to understand it, have to take it on board, have to know how to apply it for good. So yes, AI, I think, and it will affect all your lives, no question, in my view.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much again, Shimon and Ollie. Thank you to Sir Peter Rigby, founder and chairman of the Rigby Group, for coming in today to speak with us. Thanks again to Mr. Kerry, Sector Skills Champion within UTC, the studio within the Baltic Triangle. Thanks for your time and attention here for our Year 10's GCSE Business Studies class. Thank you to Jay for producing and directing the podcast. Thank you to Paul Brett for his support of the Brett Centre for Entrepreneurship. And finally, which is really nice for me, so we always end the podcast with thanking you for your support of the Enterprise Education in Secondary Schools programme. So it's nice that you're here in person for me to do that today.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Also, again, thank you for your support in establishing the Sir Peter Rigby Centre for Enterprise at the University of Liverpool again. And our final thanks goes to you, the viewers, for your time and attention today, and we look forward to seeing you in another podcast in the future. Take care for now.
Right.